It started like any other night. A late shift at the diner, followed by a quick stop at the gas station on the edge of town. I was exhausted, my mind still replaying the day's orders, table numbers, and the endless sound of clattering dishes. I pulled into the gas station, the bright lights casting long shadows across the empty lot. Only one other car was parked, an old, beat-up sedan by pump number 3. I parked my car, slid out, and stretched. The cool night air refreshing, cutting through the haze of my fatigue. As I walked towards the pump, I noticed a man standing by the sedan, his back turned to me. He was fiddling with the nozzle, but something about the way he stood, stiff and unnatural, made me uneasy. I told myself it was nothing, just another tired traveler trying to fill up his tank and get home. I started pumping my gas, keeping my eyes on the numbers ticking up on the screen. The sound of the gas flowing was oddly loud in the silence of the night. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw the man finish pumping his gas. He stood there for a moment, unmoving, like he was thinking about something. Then he turned around. His face was hidden beneath the hood of his jacket, the shadows obscuring his features. But I could feel his eyes on me, cold and lingering. A chill ran down my spine as I forced myself to focus on my car, pretending I hadn't noticed him. He didn't move for what felt like an eternity. Then, finally, he got into his car and drove away. I exhaled, realizing I had been holding my breath. I finished up, paid at the pump, and quickly got back into my car. As I pulled out of the gas station, I scanned the road for any sign of the man's car. The highway was empty, just the way I liked it at this time of night. About 10 minutes into the drive, I noticed a pair of headlights behind me. I didn't think much of it at first. It was late, and this stretch of road was a common route for night drivers. But the headlights stayed too close, almost riding my bumper. I checked my rearview mirror and recognized the shape of the car. It was the same sedan from the gas station. My heart skipped a beat. I told myself it was just a coincidence. There were only so many ways to get out of town after all. But the way the car stayed on my tail, mirroring every turn, every lane change, it didn't feel like a coincidence. I sped up, hoping to lose him, but he matched my pace. I took a sharp right turn down a side road, and so did he. Panic began to creep into my chest. I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to go home, not with him following me, but I couldn't think of where else to go. I made another turn, then another, trying to lose him in the maze of back roads. Every time, his headlights stayed right behind me. I started to sweat, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. My phone was in the cup holder, but I didn't dare pick it up. I didn't want to take my eyes off the road for a second. All I could do was keep driving, faster and faster, my mind racing with fear. Suddenly, an idea hit me. There was a small neighborhood up ahead, one with winding streets and cul-de-sacs. I could duck into one of those streets, turn off my headlights, and hide. It was risky, but I didn't have any other options. I took the next left into the neighborhood, the headlights of the sedan still hot on my trail. My heart pounded in my chest as I made another quick turn down a narrow street. Then, with a sharp jerk of the wheel, I pulled into a driveway, killing my engine and lights in one smooth motion. I sat there, holding my breath, watching as the sedan's headlights slowly approached. The car slowed down, creeping past the house like a predator searching for its prey. My heart felt like it was going to explode. I ducked down, praying he wouldn't see me. The car paused at the end of the street, idling for a moment. Then, To my relief, it drove off, its headlights disappearing into the night. I waited several minutes, listening to the silence, my pulse still racing. I sat up and started my car again. My hands were still shaking, but I managed to pull out of the driveway and headed towards home. When I got there, I parked in the garage, closed the door, and sat in my car for a few minutes, trying to calm down. I felt safe for now, or at least safer than I had before. But something in the back of my mind wouldn't let go of the fear. What if he found me? What if he knew where I lived? I shook my head, trying to push the thought away. It was over. I was home. I got out of the car and walked to my front door. The porch light flickered as I fumbled with my keys, my nerves still on edge. I unlocked the door, stepped inside, and closed it behind me with a heavy sigh of relief. But as I turned to lock the door, I froze. There, on the other side of the glass, was the same man from the gas station. His face was inches away from mine, separated only by the thin pane of glass. His lips twisted into a grin, his eyes dark and empty. He had followed me home after all. Before I could scream, before I could even react, he raised a hand and knocked gently on the door. I stumbled backward, nearly tripping over my own feet. My heart raced, hammering so loudly in my chest I could barely hear the knock again. Soft, deliberate. The man outside didn't move, his face still eerily close to the glass. His grin seemed wider now, more menacing, as if he was enjoying my terror. I couldn't breathe. My mind screamed at me to run, but my feet felt glued to the floor. My eyes darting around the room, searching for something, anything I could use as a weapon. But everything seemed so far away, and all I could do was just stare at him. He knocked again, this time more insistently. My legs finally obeyed, and I backed away, my hands fumbling to lock the deadbolt. The click of the lock gave me a sliver of hope, but his grin never faltered. He pressured his palm flat against the glass, tapping his fingers as if in thought, like he was deciding what to do next. I grabbed my phone from my pocket, my hands shaking as I dialed 911. The ringing felt like it took forever, each second dragging out painfully. The man tilted his head, as if he could hear the conversation. I backed further into the room, putting more distance between us. "We're sending officers to your location, ma'am. Stay on the line with me." I nodded, even though the operator couldn't see me. My heart pounded in my ears, drowning out the rest of her words as I kept my eyes glued to the front door. The man finally took a step back, his hand sliding down the glass. For a moment, I thought maybe he was giving up. But then, he moved towards the side of the house. Panic shot through me. I ran to the nearest window, trying to catch a glimpse of him, but he was already gone. My mind raced. He was looking for another way in. "Ma'am, are you still there?" The operator's voice crackled through the phone. "Yes," I gasped. "He's moving around the house. I think he's trying to find another way in." "Stay inside. Keep all the doors and windows locked. The officers are on their way." I rushed to the back of the house, checking the windows and doors. Everything was locked, but it didn't matter. He was out there, somewhere, and I had no idea where he would try next. My house, which had always felt like a sanctuary, now felt like a trap. Every shadow seemed to shift. Every creak of the house felt like it could be him. I crouched by the living room window, peeking out into the yard. The night was still, unnervingly so, and for a moment I thought maybe he was gone. Maybe he realized the cops were coming after him. But then I saw him. He was standing in the middle of the yard, just outside the ring of light from the street lamp. His face was still in shadow, but I could see his silhouette, tall and still. He wasn't moving, just watching the house. Watching me. I pulled back from the window, heart thundering. The operator was still talking, trying to calm me down, but her voice felt distant now, drowned out by the fear clawing at my chest. The cops would be here soon. They had to be. I just had to hold on a little longer. Suddenly, there was a loud crash from the back of the house. I jumped to my feet, dropping the phone. The sound came from the kitchen. I crept toward it, my breath caught in my throat, afraid of what I would find. The back door was wide open, hanging off one hinge. The lock had been broken. He was inside of my house. I backed away from the kitchen, my eyes scanning the room. My bedroom was too far. The closet under the stairs. That was my only option. I crouched in the darkness, my breath shallow, my heart pounding in my throat. I could hear every creak of the footsteps now, moving slowly through the house, each step deliberate, heavy. He was looking for me. I held the phone close to my chest, too afraid to make any noise, even though I knew I would stay on the line. The footsteps grew closer, pausing every few seconds, as if he was listening for me. Suddenly, the footsteps stopped right outside the closet door. I covered my mouth with my hand, trying to stifle the sound of my breathing. My whole body shook, the fear so intense it felt like my heart was going to stop. I waited, every second stretching into an eternity. Then, the doorknob rattled. I squeezed my eyes shut, praying he wouldn't open it, praying the police would arrive, praying for anything. Just as the knob began to turn, I heard the distant sound of sirens. The man paused. The knob stopped turning. For a long moment, there was nothing but silence. Then, without warning, the footsteps retreated. He was running now, bolting out of the house. I stayed in the closet, too afraid to move, even after I heard the front door swing open and the sound of voices shouting. It wasn't until I heard the police call out that I finally opened the door. They never found him. He had disappeared into the night, leaving behind only the shattered lock and the chilling memory of his grin. I never went back to that gas station, but even now, sometimes, late at night, I swear I can feel someone watching me from the shadows, and I know it's him, waiting.